Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. And today I welcome Sarah to the show. So a welcome to Sarah. So a quick introduction to Sarah, and then we're going to dive into the conversation today. So Sara Hartley is a healthcare marketing executive, certified neurodiversity and ADHD coach, and the author of Purposefully Me, a 13-book children's series reimagining how we teach emotional wellness and self-worth, with the first book targeted for early December. She's the creator of Echo Parenting, a reflective framework rooted in empathy over control, and the Align Method, a 5-step grounding tool: awareness, listen, identify, ground, nurture, that helps parents stay regulated during life's most dysregulated moments so that you don't lose your shit. Through her work, Sarah empowers families to raise emotional, resilient kids whilst healing their own inner narratives. Welcome, Sarah. Glad to have you on to the show. It'd be great to hear a little bit about maybe your journey into getting into ADHD coaching and into coaching around neurodiversity as well.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Johnny, for having me. Big fan of the show, so it's an honor to be here. I think thinking back on my journey, it started more around age 25 when I was late stage diagnosed with ADHD. At that time, of course, it's, hey, here's some medication and you're on your way. So we're never really taught those tools of how to actually regulate our emotions or other strategies that might help with some of our ADHD characteristics. So it really wasn't until after my first child, we noticed around 3 or so that he was extremely intelligent, doing things earlier than typical children, but also that there was a bit of aggression with him as well. And so a good friend of mine is an OT and said, you might want to see if he's highly gifted and maybe look into some sensory processing disorder or ADHD. And so at that point, we took him to a specialist and had a full evaluation, which in fact had all of the above. And I think there's so many things you can do for yourself, but when it's your child, it's completely eye-opening that you say, I will do anything possible to help make this better.
Mm.
I am just one of those problem solvers by nature. And so he's really the reason that started me on this journey, which became more of self-discovery. And that's where the philosophy around echo parenting comes into play, because I learned that I'm actually on this parallel journey with my son as he's healing, he's learning how to self-regulate, he's learning how to deal with these big emotions and conflicts that he's having at school. And at the same time, I'm noticing that it's triggering certain things in me as well. So I need to make sure that I'm healing, because there's no way for him to truly learn how to self-regulate if I can't do that myself.
I've got you. And what is self-regulation for you?
Um, I think you mentioned at the beginning of trying not to lose your shit. I think
Mm.
that one thing I never knew about myself was how certain sounds could really overwhelm me. Never have had that issue in my adolescence or growing up. But then when you have children, they are very loud. I have two boys, and so boys especially are very rambunctious, and them bouncing off the walls really triggered something in me where I always thought that I was kind of an even keel type of person, not one to get super flustered about anything. Had been in my professional career for many years. If something bothered me, I'd maybe go work out or think about it one day, the next day I'd wake up and I'd be over it. So it's a bit different when you have a child in front of you who's completely melting down and they're unable to understand exactly what's happening to their body with these overwhelming emotions. And so teaching them the proper tools to either one, proactively layer in grounding techniques and or sensory workouts essentially prior to having the emotional explosion, or learning how to self-regulate once you're in that sort of I'm seeing red type of state. And so it's interesting because they give you all the tools, but as a parent, when you also are neurodiverse, it's very difficult to stay regulated and stay calm when your child is having a meltdown.
I've got you. Okay, and the word you use the word obviously we mentioned the word like neurodiverse. What does that mean to you?
It's, the easiest way to think about it is your brains work differently than other people's. You have
Mm,
neurotypical people and you have neurodiverse people. And so that could be a whole spectrum of things. ADHD falls into that category, sensory processing disorder, autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia, being highly gifted, so having a really high IQ. Oftentimes, having that high IQ is typically paired with an additional type of what they would, call a behavioral discrepancy. And when that happens, it's called a twice exceptional child or person. So my oldest is twice exceptional. My little one's, the jury's still out. I think he is as well. But he's 5 and it's presenting a bit differently for him. But it's ultimately the science of the brain works differently. It fires differently. It makes it difficult for things that are normal people can do easily. It's different for a person who is neurodiverse.
got you. And from your view, what can a parent do, like if they've got like a new kids or young children to kind of look out for those kind of signs?
That's actually a great question. I noticed some of the first things I noticed were more of the sensory processing things where my oldest immediately, any sort of t-shirt that he had on, if there was a tag in it, the tag was really itchy. I noticed that he would cover his ears quite a bit. So he loved to be loud, but he did not like loud noises. So he could be loud if he was the one making the sound. We got a lot of incident reports sent home in preschool. He actually was kicked out of 2 different preschools where it was hitting or kicking or some sort of aggressive behavior. Part of it was he was very frustrated that other children maybe weren't on the same intellectual level. And so he would get very frustrated and then not know how or what to do with his body or how to articulate in words what was wrong with him. So he would hit or punch or whatever it would be. And especially he had one little boy that was exactly the same as him. And so the 2 of them, which thankfully the parents, we're still great friends today from back several years ago, but we even brought the 2 of them together. And so sort of navigated this journey together. But sensory stuff is often some of the first things that you'll notice. Maybe they don't want to be wet or they don't like sticky stuff. One of my children, the oldest, he would eat with food. He was not a messy baby. There was never food on his face. He did not like to touch Play-Doh. He didn't like slime. And the little one, he's the polar opposite. He's covered head to toe in spaghetti and just doesn't care. So you could have either a sensory intolerance or you could have where you either want more of that sensory input or you want less of that sensory input. And that's usually how it starts. And then it can develop further into either autism or ADHD or whatever that neurodiverse path ends up being. But sensory stuff is usually the first place to start.
That's really interesting for awareness, certainly on for a lot of us, I think, when you're sharing that. Um, and what is the echo parenting? Could you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yes, absolutely. It's more of a philosophy about recognizing and learning more about yourself through your children. I think I didn't realize I really needed help in the strategy department, which is funny because I've spent my career working through healthcare and marketing strategy, and now, have this child, and I don't have the proper tools to be able to regulate my own emotions when he's exploding. And so thinking about how you really have to heal yourselves, no matter how we were raised, we all have some sort of trauma in some way, shape, or form. And if you're not on your own parallel healing journey, you don't have the ability to be able to model that for your child. And ultimately, the hope of one day that they're not going to have therapy as well. I'm sure we all will, but it's that how do I do better and how do I grow alongside them and really make this a journey for both of us. It also adds a layer of empathy and compassion where a lot of times I'm able to talk to my oldest son and say, buddy, I get it. I have ADHD too. This is really hard for me. And so creating that sort of nurture and connection makes him feel a little bit less alone, which is ultimately what my goal and mission is. And that's why I've written all the children's books that I have.
And 13, I believe you've
Yes, and
written.
I'm even working on a 14th. So there's a constant inspiration from both of my children that I've found for me, writing really is cathartic, and that's helped me to process my own emotions as well.
So, like, part of that healing process is the writing.
Absolutely. I was in the shower and it was kind of midst of the pandemic and had an aha moment where I think we do some of our best thinking in the shower. But my oldest was around 3.5. My little one was about 6 months old. Neither were sleeping. My oldest had just so much anxiety. School shut down. He was used to the routine and really thrived in a routine. The little one wasn't sleeping. And I just had this moment of what is my purpose? Why am I here? And that really sparked the start of what became 13 additional books. I got out of the shower. My husband said, what are you doing? It's taking you so long to get ready. And I said, I just wrote a children's book. And he's like, what? What? How did that happen? So it for me then really stemmed from there from affirmations that I've said with my boys every night before bed. And those affirmations started building. I'm kind, I'm smart, I'm lovable, I am brave, I'm enough, I'm safe, and I'm a great kid. So all of that just kind of continued to then create the framework for each of these books that fall under one of those topics and address either some sort of hard conversation, whether it's divorce or death, or bullying, or some type of neurodiversity, anxiety, sensory processing, ADHD, autism, and more. So it's really that reflection where back with the echo parenting, I've had several therapists review these books, and one of them said, I saw myself in this book and I saw my daughter in the other book. And so that's what I want for when a parent reads it, that they might have that aha moment if they don't realize they may have some, if their child has ADHD, they may not realize probably one of the parents or both have ADHD. It's typically hereditary, and that's allowing that aha moment of, oh wow, this is me. So it's meant to teach both the child and the parent.
Got you. Okay. Now, writing sounds like it's been a powerful part of your healing journey, but helping other people as well and creating that awareness and that purposeful shower moment that you touched on there, that you came from. What else in your journey has kind of helped through that healing process in your own journey?
Oh, there's, a lot of things that I try to do, whether it's, weekly therapy. I make sure that I am getting out and walking our dog every morning. I need to feel the sunlight, have that actual walking happening. I've done some EMDR therapy, even just walking when your eyes are scanning the pavement, that helps your left brain and your right brain to connect, where you really get out of your amygdala and really into your brain. And so walking is something for me that's always been a big part of what I have to make sure I do. If I don't, I notice my irritability later in the day. And then just grounding tools and techniques. And I think what I had a moment of, I need something that's going to work for me and for my child that, it could work if it's both of us together, or if it's we're in a scenario where, there's loud, overwhelming noises and maybe one child or another are melting down, but it's something that could also work in a relationship as well. So that's where the Align parenting method was born. The first part, A, really meaning creating that sense of awareness. So it's really important to just notice what's happening around you. And so I can give you an example. I don't know if you've heard of the Savannah Bananas. They are kind of a phenomenon right now in baseball, similar to the Harlem Globetrotters, but of baseball. They're selling out major stadiums left and right. I'm actually from Savannah, Georgia, so they're near and dear to my heart. And both my children are fanatics. So we went to the game in Denver. They played at the Rocky Stadium, and it was loud and hot and completely overwhelming. And it's not just for, my child who's having a, near meltdown and saying, I don't want to be here. I'm ready to go home. But it was for me because I started feeling those same emotions. So I paused and just aligned and whispered to myself, align. And I aligned myself with him and had a moment of saying, okay, now I need to listen. I need to tune into myself. I need to tune into him. What is he feeling in this moment? And have that empathy. And so I whispered to him, I said, hey, buddy, it's really loud and hot. And I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I imagine you might be too. And he kind of, looked and shrugged. And I went to the I for the identify, trying to identify the trigger of why that behavior is happening, whether that's yourself becoming overwhelmed or your child. All of a sudden you look around, you're like, I'm sweating. It's hot. It's loud. There's smells coming from the stadium, hot dogs and nachos. And there are a lot of kids around. They're very loud. We're standing in line. We've been waiting in line for an hour at this point, and it's wall to wall people. So you really have to identify what are those triggers for you. And for me, a lot of times it is the noise. It's the volume. If you're at a concert, that's different. Everything's loud, but it's kind of going from that minimal volume, where you've been in the car and everything's been peaceful, and then it escalates. So you identify those triggers, and I bent down and said to him, "Look, that it's hot. This is not fun. I totally get why you're feeling this way." And I said, let's try to move into the G for grounding. Let's do something that's going to allow us to ground our senses. So I said, let's both take a sip of water. Water is a very quick, easy tool that will reset your central nervous system. So it's super easy. And then I said, let's play a quick grounding. I love 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but that takes a little bit more time where you're, trying to name 5 things you see, 4 things that you feel, 3 things that you hear, 2 things that you smell, and 1 thing you taste. So instead, I did a quick one like, hey, let's name 3 things that are purple. And, quickly found 3 things purple, pretty easy to do in the Rocky Stadium. And so that took a moment, and I could watch myself and my child come down. So from that very heated to it just immediately de-escalated the situation. But one of the most important pieces of this is the N for nurture, because you want to make sure that you're connecting with them. This is the moment in which I could say, hey, buddy, like, this was a lot, and I totally get it. I know you wanted to go home, but I think this is going to be really fun. Do you think that we can go ahead and try to go inside? And he said, yes, absolutely. Can I get a baseball? And I said, let's go. So it allows for you to really have not only that metacognition with the first three, A, L, and I, which means that you're moving from that mode of just being passive where things are happening around you to becoming fully self-aware of the situation. So that the metacognition is really that first piece. Then you're actually giving a tangible thing to do with the grounding. And lastly, you have that nurturing element that's going to layer in the compassion. So it all happened in a matter of 60 seconds. So while I'm explaining it sounds lengthy, but when you're in the moment, it is really quick and easy to do and can really save yourself. I've had many friends use it and try it. One who just used it at a concert in Denver recently, out at the Botanic Gardens, and she said she was ready and about to lose it, feeling all of that pressure, ran through the method, and her son calmed down, and she was able to calm herself as well.
Mm, I like that approach, that how people are able to use it in the moment. And yeah, you hear things like sometimes people talk about ADHD, and there's kind of like maybe there could be like a stereotype on what they think it is, or there's all these different like ways we think and feel, and we're all different, right? But the align method sounds like it's make it very specific to the individual. That's what I'm hearing. So like you're able to connect with them as who they are, because we're all different, right? And we're all going through different things. So it sounds like it gives you that approach from what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. And it might be that, in that moment, something's maybe not overwhelming me except for my child's behavior. It's not
Mm,
affecting me in the same way, but it gives me pause to say, wait, what's going on with he or she? What's happening? And you become a detective, you become curious. And I think that also helps de-escalate your own emotions as well.
mm. I like that. Yeah, sort of. So it helps you to connect with yourself and the child as well.
It does, and and that's where you could really do this on your own, without maybe it's just something at work has bothered you, or you're on a Zoom with someone, you kind of
Mm,
quickly can do it, to yourself. You can do it to where you're trying to have your child just mirror you or feel your emotions where you just run through it yourself and you talk out loud, or you can actually have them actively participate where they're doing it alongside of you and actually choosing what their grounding method is. And just having some of those couple of quick things in your back pocket, like drinking water, one for transitioning, if you're transitioning from school to home, chew gum. It's very simple, but my son's 8, almost 9, so he's able to responsibly chew gum. I don't think I would give it to my 5-year-old, but
mm,
you start to learn these quick little easy things that are going to allow them to kind of come back to their own self-awareness and their bodies and allow to make some of those transitions a lot easier.
mm. I like the like little water one, and then just becoming aware of the awareness. Sounds like it's the first part of like when you're in the moment as well, which is a powerful one. Because yeah, we can get caught up in busy environments that I know I can, and then just kind of like lose attention to how I'm feeling in the moment. But I love the way that this is allowing you to connect with your child as well, but starting it on yourself. So no, really powerful method, sounds like. So Sarah, I know obviously you go a lot more into depth with this, and you supporting with your work out there. You've got your books out there, really getting a mission on helping people in the ADHD with the neurodiversity and connecting with their children. Where can the listener find you if they want to find more about your work or connect with you? And is there maybe a final point you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, so the best place to find me, Instagram and my website. So it's at Sarah Lewis Hartley. It's SaraLewisHartley. So at Sarah Lewis Hartley on Instagram, and then at sarahlewishartley.com. You can actually go to my website and download a free printable for the Align method. It will come with an attachment as well to just walk through how I used that in the moment. So that's a great place to find me. And what I'd like to leave you with, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that we're all different. And I think that that's the biggest part of this is that all of us are different. We learn differently, we do things differently, and sometimes we just have to give ourselves a little bit of grace and the people who we're with. And as a child, I felt being alone in my own brain for many, many years. And it wasn't until I had that diagnosis that allowed me to say, okay, that makes sense of some of the things that maybe really bothered me or the self-doubt that I had. And so, giving that grace to yourself and to others. And, my ultimate goal is to help children feel a little bit less alone in their own brains. And so we're all on our own healing journey, and just giving ourselves grace is really the way to go.
Oh, that's amazing, Sarah. No, totally agree. So we'll be sure to link all your resources up in the show notes below. So make sure you reach out to Sarah and get support for yourself and your children with what we're providing you. And Sarah's very generous gifts there. So Sarah, thank you so much for coming on today and everything you shared.
Thank you as well.
Thank you. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.